Ready to navigate the path to obtaining your Oregon State ID, ensuring freedom and access to countless opportunities? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to demystify the notoriously tedious DMV process and guide you through every vital step to make it smooth and stress-free. Whether you're a brand new resident or you just need to update your credentials, navigating state bureaucracy can definitely feel like a maze. But today, we are going to break down every single step you need to take to make this as painless as possible.
Think about it. You literally need an ID for everything these days. Boarding a plane, opening a bank account, proving your identity for a new job, or even just buying a drink to celebrate your 21st birthday. In fact, we actually saw a story in our sources from a Portland local who turned 21 but couldn't buy a celebratory beverage anywhere because their out-of-state ID was expired. If you don't know where to start, getting a valid ID can feel super daunting. We're going to make this a smooth, stress-free process so you can secure your freedom and access those countless opportunities without a hitch.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover preparation and required documents, standard versus real ID, booking your DMV appointment, fees and payment methods, follow-up and receiving your card, and finally, some FAQs and insider tips. Okay, Section 1, preparation and required documents. Let's start with the pre-flight checklist, because trust me, showing up to a DMV office without the exact right documents is a surefire way to get turned away, and we want to get this right on the very first try. The absolutely crucial point here is understanding exactly what categories of documents you have to fulfill. You must prove your identity and date of birth, your social security number, your Oregon residency, and any legal name changes. And listen closely to this rule. You've got to bring original, physical documents or certified copies directly from the issuing agency. Photocopies? No way. Flashing a digital PDF on your smartphone? Not going to cut it. You literally need to pull the physical documents out of your filing cabinet.
So what is actually accepted? For identity, think valid U.S. passports or a certified U.S. birth certificate. And quick heads up, those hospital-issued birth certificates with the cute little footprints, those don't count. For your social security number, a physical W-2, a 1099, or a recent pay stub with your full SSN works perfectly if you've lost your actual card. For your address, you can use utility bills, bank statements, or a rental agreement, but they absolutely must be dated within the last 60 days. Oh, and if your current name doesn't match your birth certificate because of a marriage or divorce, you absolutely have to bring the official court decree to prove that name change.
Here's a super interesting fact about the age requirement, or really the lack of one. Unlike a driver's permit, which requires you to be at least 15, there is zero minimum age for a non-driver Oregon ID card. Even infants and young children are legally eligible. The only catch is that for any applicant under 18, the DMV requires a parent or court-appointed legal guardian to be listed as an emergency contact. Moving right along to Section 2, Standard ID versus Real ID. Before you start gathering all those documents, you have a pretty major decision to make regarding the type of ID you actually want. Basically, you have to choose between a standard ID and a real ID. A standard ID is fantastic for everyday local use, and it only requires you to bring one proof of address. But starting May 7th, 2025, the federal government is going to require a real ID or another federally approved ID like a passport to board domestic flights or enter certain federal facilities. Upgrading to a real ID means you have to bring two separate printed documents to prove your Oregon address, and they have to come from different agencies or businesses. Honestly, if you travel at all, getting the real ID now will save you a massive headache later.
All right, Section 3, booking your DMV appointment. Now for the main event, actually getting your foot in the door at the DMV office.
The whole process is built around their online portal, DMV2U. Your very first step should be using their interactive tool to build a custom checklist of your specific documents. Once that's totally squared away, use that same website to book your in-person appointment. While you can do a lot of things online these days, getting a new ID or upgrading to a real ID has to be finalized in person so they can physically verify those original documents and, of course, take your photo. Now, booking an appointment sounds easy enough, right? But wait times can literally stretch for months, especially in bigger cities. Luckily, we sourced some fantastic street-smart advice from the Portland Reddit community. One of their top tips, which was actually recommended by a DMV employee to a local resident, is to check the online appointment portal every single day right at 9 a.m. This is exactly when the system updates with daily cancellations, and you can often snag a slot just a few days out instead of waiting around for months. If you absolutely cannot wait and that 9 a.m. trick just isn't panning out, you've got a couple of insider options. Walk-ins are actually accepted at most locations, though appointments will always get priority. One clever local suggested showing up right before they open, maybe acting a bit confused as a walk-in, but having your documents perfectly organized and ready to go. A lot of times, they'll just squeeze you in. Alternatively, make a road trip out of it. People stuck waiting months in Portland have reported finding next-day appointments simply by driving out to more rural DMV offices, like in St. Helens or Lebanon, where there is virtually zero wait time.
Section 4. Fees and payment methods. So, you've got your documents, and you secured your spot in line. Let's talk about what happens when you finally reach the counter. For an original standard 8-year state ID card, you're looking at a base fee of $47. However, if you're springing for that Real ID upgrade, there is a strict $30 surcharge stacked on top, bringing your total to $77. And keep in mind that $30 surcharge applies every single time you apply for an original, a replacement, or a renewal of a Real ID. So definitely factor that in when budgeting for your visit. Luckily, the Oregon DMV is surprisingly modernized when it comes to payments. They take cash, debit, and credit cards, including Visa, MasterCard, and Discover, and even mobile payments. If you're old school and prefer to use a check or a money order, just make it payable to Oregon DMV. But a serious word of warning here. If you are using a money order, it has to be filled out for the exact amount of your transaction. They literally cannot give you change for a money order.
Which brings us to Section 5, follow-up and receiving it. You've handed over your money, your documents have been approved, and you've smiled for your brand new photo. So, what happens next?
A huge misconception is that you just walk out of the DMV with your shiny new hard plastic ID card in hand. Yeah, that is not the case. On day 1 at the office, your original documents will be securely scanned into their system, your photo is taken, and you'll be issued a temporary paper identification card. Your official hard plastic ID card is actually manufactured off-site and will show up at your residence in the mail about 3 weeks later.
Finally, Section 6, FAQs and insider tips. To wrap things up, let's tackle a super common concern from the community and recap our final insider strategies for total success. We touched on this earlier, but it's a very real scenario that popped up in local forums. What happens if you are officially of age, but your ID has expired while you are stuck waiting weeks for your DMV appointment? Can you still buy a drink?
Sadly, according to the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission, an expired ID is legally invalid for proving your age, period. Even if your actual birth date is printed right there on the plastic, your identification essentially expires along with the card itself. If you find yourself in this annoying gap period waiting for your DMV appointment, your absolute best bet is to use a valid, unexpired U.S. passport for your weekend beverage purchases or to get into age-restricted venues.
Before you head out the door, remember these final golden rules. Make absolutely sure your name matches across every single document. If your birth certificate says one thing and your bank statement says another because you got married, you have to bring the official marriage certificate to bridge that gap. Also, it honestly never hurts to over-prepare. Bring 3 or 4 proofs of residency just in case they decide one of them doesn't meet their exact criteria. Let that DMV to you checklist tool be your absolute best friend here.
And of course, as with anything involving the government, bureaucracy is always shifting around. Fees can increase and required document lists can absolutely get updated. We want you to be fully prepared, so always use the official Oregon DMV website to verify these current details right before you head out to your appointment.
So, there you have it. You now have the ultimate step-by-step roadmap to conquering the DMV without the headache. You know the costs, you know the scheduling hacks, and you know exactly what paperwork is required. So what's stopping you? Which documents are you pulling out of your filing cabinet today to unlock your new Oregon State ID?